Hello, Shadow Control is with you, and today, in the section behind the scenes of Magical Secrets, we will talk with the master of cosmoenergetics, psychologist Oleg Vladimirovich. Oleg Vladimirovich, hello. The first question, as always, is traditional. How did your journey begin? How did you come to the practices I mentioned?
Everything is very banal, because people usually come to cosmoenergy with a crisis. I just had a life crisis. It was necessary to get out of the crisis in the usual way did not work out. It was necessary, so to speak, in a short time, and to change everything in general: attitude to life, attitude to people, attitude to oneself. At first, if light meditation started, then I went further. It became interesting what meditation is. Well, if you can go into detail, so first I got into the esoteric store. It was necessary to get acquainted. I found a book, a textbook for a psychic. I started reading. Questions began to appear. It says everywhere, dear friend, if you are reading this, then you already know how. And everywhere there were references to meditation: do so, do so. I didn't know anything about meditation. From this, the search for information began: what meditation is, what it looks like. I turned again to the sources. The source is this book. I got good books and rushed. And then, a year and a half later, through people who met, they brought me to a person who taught me about cosmoenergetics. A good, beautiful woman, a strong enough cosmoenergetic. He suffered with me 4 or 5 years before the master's degree, and then he went himself.
Is that how you came to your mentor? Why did a mentor appear in your life at all?
I have 2 mentors. There was a woman, she was a folk healer of Kazakhstan. Well, so to speak, life has brought us down. I needed help, as usual. It all started with spoilage, love spells, and everything else. It became interesting.
Have you been trained to do this or?
No, have you been updated? She treated me on this topic. And then she came the 2nd or 3rd time. She says, why do you come to me? I say, well, we're working. He says you can do everything yourself. And I didn't know anything then. I say, I can't do anything. I say, in general, this is the first time I've encountered this in my life, because dad is a communist, mom is a communist. I'm a pioneer, a Komsomol member. And that's it. In the Soviet Union, all of this was banned because of this. She says, you just don't know what you can do. Yes, she gave me the first book. The second book, I started reading. Then I came to her just to talk to her. She is a scientist, she has a medical education. She just didn't work, she worked as a healer. But the first healers, when they started working, they were not allowed to pass, as now there is a public organization. I came there to the camera, put my hand there, asked 3 questions, I'm free. And they were passed through medical institutions. They worked in hospitals, they were given people, and then checked. If a person recovered 1, 2, 3, then she received the status of a folk healer. Here it is from this 10. And she slowly began to teach me. And then she comes, somehow I came to her to drink tea, to return it in the book, to show what I learned. She says, I found cosmoenergetics there, good practice. Come, he says, with me, he says it will be useful for you too. And so we started studying with her, we got 2 masters and left.
And how did you become a master? Who made you a master?
A master is not a title. The master is a block of frequencies. It is called the master's block. Cosmoenergy is all divided into 3 blocks. Classical cosmoenergetics. Why classical? Because it appeared a long time ago, for a long time, and there is a lot of time of this practice. It was simply adapted by Petrov, Vladimir Alexandrovich Petrov. And it all started in the 90s. He got, well, there is such a thing as a challenger, direct knowledge. By the way, he was in the mountains here. I've been sitting here alone for a year, austerities. And it was through this austerity that he received these frequencies. He adapted them. Previously, cosmoenergetics was hard for a person to do, and after he reworked and adapted it, there were 3 blocks. The first block is Buddhist, 28 frequencies are collected there. They carry a healing practice with them. There is a magic block, it is healing and applied. There are still 20 frequencies with pennies.
Average.
No, they are not average. And a person comes to cosmoenergetics. Here there is a magic block, and there is a master's block. That's another 20 frequencies.
Let's summarize. There is a Buddhist block.
Buddhist.
Magical. Master's degree.
And a master's degree. In between there is a master. This is not a block, but a property, it's just an amplifier. The 2-block amplifier is amplified 6 to 7 times. It turns out the master. A master is a person who masterfully owns something. He already knows how the frequencies work, he has passed them all through himself, he knows what they are called. Each functional and everything else. This is called cosmoenergetics. Cosmoenergetics. This is a method designed for the average person. There is no need to be some kind of supernatural perception there. Nothing is needed. The first requirement that goes to a person, first of all, we do not work with people who have not reached 25 years. Why? Young people have an unstable psyche. They still need to, let's say, still have time to mess up. And the energy is very powerful, it can really change situations. It is very difficult for young people to explain what is good and what is bad, because the system of internal egoism is very high. And if the boy liked it there, she can apply cleanliness. Cleanliness may or may not work. But if it works, it won't be very good. The boy will simply turn around in her direction, and there will be violence against the soul. It all depends on the cosmoenergetic that attuned this person. The quality of the master of cosmoenergetics, or master, as we say, greatly affects the purity. There used to be 2 egregors. There was an egregor of the upper system, and there was an egregor of the lower cosmoenergetics. And now there is only the upper one. Because of this, cosmoenergetics are coming in a lot of cases right now, he says, my frequencies are closed. They can really close. They closed because violations were committed. It is impossible to treat cosmoenergy as a consumer system. That's when cosmoenergy opens frequencies just purely from the point of view of profit. That's where to rock someone's business there. Does not look at other aspects. This is not very good, and the frequencies may move away. A person can drink alcohol. Alcohol is not consumed at all, only in very small cases. For example, I don't drink alcohol at all. Since the moment I started studying, I haven't used anything until today. Yes, I smoke a little, but it doesn't affect me that much. It affects only you cannot smoke at the time of work.
Who discovers these frequencies?
With the setup goes.
With whom?
Master's degree.
With the master.
Yes. When a person reaches the master's block, not everyone reaches the master's block, the real master's block. Then we have such a concept as the Golden City, or the Mahamalatka base. This is a subtle dimension. You have to go up there and introduce yourself, and there you will be marked out the way.
And how do you understand that you got into this one?
If you'll excuse me, it's very difficult to explain to the usual standard how this happens. It needs to be put under the frequency when a person feels it.
Is that a feeling?
Not just this picture. You really get the information. Well, for example, my first experience was very interesting. I went into meditation, got a picture the intersection of a certain city. I'm standing at an intersection. A woman is coming at me. I fixed her as she is dressed. Turns the car, color and number. About 4 days later, I was at this intersection. The woman was walking, the car was turning. This brand, the numbers converged, the color did not converge. I saw a black one, and it's dark blue. This is the information provided. You're reading the information of someone who can't be there yet. Well, 4 days, sorry, no one can form. Well, okay, a woman can be caught.
And this suggests that, what frequency were you in? That's the way for this purity that you are in.
Yes. There are frequencies that are designed to take information. There are healing frequencies, there are harmonizing frequencies, there are frequencies that allow events to be formed.
And how is it determined that you have reached the master's frequencies?
And you feel them. Every purity talks, every purity is a vibration. Well, how do you feel when you're 220? Well, if you stick to the socket, you get a discharge. You can feel it. Here the cosmoenergetics is felt. It is felt on the body.
And then the participation of your mentor. What is the discovery of the master's frequencies in this process? It's like he's stating a fact, letting you go, that it will.
Talk. There's a certain setup going on.
With a mentor?
Goes yes, with a mentor. Each frequency is tuned to a person feels it.
The master sets this up with his student, and who determines that the master himself has tuned into the correct frequency.
In order to get a master's degree, there is also the preparation of the person himself. Then it goes with the setup in the master's block by a teacher or a teacher. We have removed the word teacher completely. Why? Because teachers are all in a subtle way. Not here. We teach or transmit information, and that's it. How do I determine that you have been set up? First of all, you feel. This is one time. The sensations are bodily. Secondly, the person who is tuned into one or another frequency, from this moment onwards with the settings. He works with cleanliness on his own, he feels it. He feels the quality of energy. That's what it's about, and they affect him in different ways. All frequencies have different effects. Yes, indeed. Who determines what frequency I'm on? Golden City or Mahamalatka base. This is a subtle dimension. And secondly, a person comes, and he works with me, he sees the changes. If there are no changes after my work, he can leave at any time. To determine the definition, but, frankly, there is no such equipment. Although many experiments have been conducted to change the crystallization of water and food. All these experiments were carried out by Petrov really. I have a friend, she is a teacher of physics and mathematics conducted here. Indeed, water changes its structure after changing and working with one or another frequency. All of these frequencies have a very beneficial effect on health. There were a lot of interesting moments when my fellow cosmonauts passed blood tests.
That is, the difference is the tests, right?
Yes, it is very different. Their sugar can soar up 2 moments. In general, do not grieve, mom. They say that a person does not live with such diagnoses, but you feel great. You say, just excuse me, you go out, you closed all the frequencies on yourself, exhaled and passed again. And the analysis is completely different. We just need to turn it off, because the representation, let's say, under these frequencies of health, and the representation of our medicine, it is a little different. Cleanliness is not only acquired, you know. How can I explain it to you? Well, here's a man standing, right? If a certain purity is passed through a person, why does it not settle down? Because there are blocks in a person, let's say psychological blocks, resentment of mom, resentment of children, resentment of the boss. Cleanliness will not pass. There is a painful feeling, for example, a person begins to work out, his head starts to hurt, or he starts to cry. Tantrums go. This cleanliness designates these blocks and helps to remove them. It only helps because apart from one frequency, there is not enough. In classical cosmoenergetics, it is only possible to work with frequencies. I realized that this is not enough. I started digging, what's next? I went to psychosomatics. I got acquainted with many psychosomats and went to work with the subconscious. Now we have intertwined the visual ruler, work with the subconscious, we are already working ourselves. Student, I am able to get into a person's subconscious, help him remove exactly the picture that hinders him.
This is your personal method of some kind, yes, which?
Already the development of a personal center. That's why I say center, because I'm not alone. I have a lot of very familiar people who work there in shamanism, work somewhere else. I am with them, we inform them, I take information from someone gives it, somehow I consult, someone tells me something. Helps me, I explain why I am doing all this. I very often go to some kind of training, I study that technique, this technique, and I mix it with cosmoenergetics. My main one is cosmoenergetics, and I just start everything else. And we have developed a very interesting system that through certain frequencies of cosmoenergetics, it is possible to enter the subconscious very successfully. Here, in order, for example, to learn to enter the subconscious according to Sinelnikov, you need, who has a month, who has up to a year. Because it's very subtle to catch.
In order to learn how to enter the subconscious of another person.
Yes.
Are you asking for his consent?
Absolutely. The whole point is that cosmoenergy. This is a practice that is going on, let's say, not really. Well, usually for the ordinary man in the street, cosmoenergetics is written in all of them. These are frequencies coming from outer space. Well, this is to make it clear. In fact, cosmoenergetics is the frequencies coming, well, let's say, from the pantheon of the gods. They were really sharpened and given to man in order for us to become better. We just turned this cosmoenergy, as usual, into a consumer world. We turn everything either into weapons or into money. We can't do it any other way. And this cosmoenergetics lost its face for some time. I am trying to achieve through my center that this is a good, wonderful practice, and there are no threats there. It's just that when a person comes to you, you should be clearly aware of what is in front of you and who passed them on. If he's an alcoholic drug addict there, it's probably not worth setting him up. First you need to remove these things. If he is not all right with his head, then he also does not need to fill in, configure. You just don't need to run for money, you need to run for the quality of your work. Well, cerebral palsy, schizophrenia, cosmoenergetics won't help here, these are karmic things. In cosmoenergetics, a number of laws of the universe are still being considered. There is a law of inviolability of the soul. Without warning and without permission, I have no right to work for a person. If ads often come to me, people come there, yes, my husband is cheating on me there, in my opinion. They throw a picture of her husband on the table. I say, no guys, give your husband's permission, I'll watch. His personal permission. No husband has given yet. But in any case, if a woman is already applying, I usually say, let me help you, personally. If a husband walks away from a woman, it's the woman's fault, not the husband's. He walks because she doesn't give him something, the programs are in it. This program wakes up, the husband stops walking. This is verified. I have worked a lot of women with this issue. It's just that a woman loses self-respect for herself, self-love is inside here. Then she takes on increased responsibilities. The husband came, he was tired, and she also worked, also tired, but for some reason she goes to the store. And this Yuvo is lying on the couch because he is tired. This is where a woman breaks her boundaries. And I usually advise him to lie down next to his husband, or he wants to eat, he will go with you. No. Well, I'm sorry.
Go back a little bit to that story. You said before that you should introduce yourself. Yes, you enter the portal, or as you should introduce yourself.
It's not a portal, it's purity.
Yes.
Frequency purity.
Come into certain ones, you must introduce yourself. Who do you introduce yourself to? Who will you see, or what is going on? What the?
Teachers of the past. It's probably very interesting here that the subtle world, it has certain forms. You see, well, we're used to that angel, that's what we see, that's what we draw, that's an angel. In fact, it looks different. It is an energy substance. It all depends on how much your consciousness is cleared of energy dirt. You see, the whole point of a master's degree is what? The fact that you take on 48 hours of completely different vibrations. When you earn them, when you work with them, your blocks, moral blocks go away from you. Your health is getting better. You are starting to think in a completely different way. You are already beginning to understand these all-earthly laws. You can see how this space is being formed. It's all visible. There is a purification of consciousness. Naturally, the vibration of the body changes. When you are ready, we will say, the vibration of any energy level, we must match it. Because of this, when they usually tell me that I'm talking to the saints there, I usually say, can I see you? They say, okay, look. You start to look. The first chakra does not work. The second one does not work. There is damage on the person. And there the entity, apparently, does not talk to devils. Because as soon as a human entity has an upper floor, it closes instantly.
How do you determine that these are angels, even when you are here?
They will answer you.
So you have a dialogue with them.
Naturally.
And how do you perceive this dialogue? Are these also some kind of pictures?
It's fine. At first. Or did you want to go to the madhouse to get checked out? Were there such moments?
So this is what was happening. Why did you want to go crazy? Have you heard or seen something?
Someone hears, someone sees.
And you?
Everything is different. When I started, I saw it. Now I hear it.
That is, as if you hear human speech, right?
Not really. You're not talking with your tongue, you're talking with your head.
But this is a dialogue.
Absolute.
Question-answer.
Yes. The fact is that people idealize the system. Here he came, here he said, she ran to do it. You always need to ask who, why, and why.
Is that what you're asking?
This is what every person asks who really enters the subtle space that he knows.
How to determine that this is not a hoax?
And events come true. Not your events come true. You can adjust one of your events. Either take a glass of water or don't take it. But an event involving 5, 10, 20, 30 people, you can't change. They are going as it was said. That's how it's not cheating. This is faith. When you turn to God, pray, or to Allah, you ask, do you believe that they will give it to you? You don't ask yourself whether you have reached out or not. And why are you doubting here?
Do I have to ask?
From whom?
Who is being asked?
It depends on what to ask.
And what do people ask for? What are they addressing you with?
Now the requests have become different. Well, most of them are still love spells with an eye of spoilage. A lot of people want for some reason to do damage to death, love spells. I do not do this, I do not do love spells and spoilage on my website. Because it's me basically, when such a request goes, I give a full annotation of why it's not worth doing. Because that's where the curse lies. And you will be responsible for this damage for a long time.
On you too, if to do it.
It's not about me. I'm not considering this option at all. I don't even consider this option, because I clearly understand what is good and what is bad. And spoiling is not a good thing. Spoilage is ambition. It is the inability to hold pain. It is the inability to talk. It is the inability of a person to protect himself. Love spell. This is a weakness of the soul and character. This pain must be endured, even if a person. You fell in love, and the person doesn't love you. Well, first of all, what is love? Love. The feeling is light. In this version, it's probably very good to see War and Peace, where Pierre, he was in love, he loved a woman. But at the same time, he tried to make her only good. That's love. And when matter is involved, then there is this pain and the desire to make a love spell. A love spell is not made to a person who, well, works there as a driver, no. All the love spells that they want to do are very wealthy people. Because they just want to fix their material existence very sharply under the guise of love. But there are no freebies even here. This is one time. And secondly, if you'll excuse me please, I've met with these systems a lot. And I know approximately how much a spell in the city now costs a good one. And I know how it's made too. It is shot in 15 to 20 minutes. Any student of my cosmoenergetics who passes through my school takes off the spell for 15 or 20 minutes with any weight. A person will come twice at most, stand for 20 minutes, and that's it. And there will be no love spell of any severity. We'll also win back the magician. We find a magician, in any case, a magician will be found. Because we shoot and work through the upper system. They'll find it. Because there is nothing unreal in space, but everything shines through very quickly. Firm where all the relationships are there, everything is viewed. It is impossible to find a person in the physical. In a thin space, there's a master standing right there, who worked it, and he gets a refund anyway. At least what kind of protection he has, everyone is equal before God. That's it. And they're not going anywhere.
Well, you said, they will find it. And who are they? Who's looking? That.
What was easier for you? Archangels. They are lighting up for justice on earth. And the spell, oddly enough, violates two laws, the right of choice and inviolable souls. And this is a divine law. God, the uppermost God, and the whole earth, and the entire system of the planet Earth, and the cosmos, exists on the right of choice. We are absolutely free to make any choice. You can believe in God, you cannot believe in God. You can do this, you can't do that. You want to come here, you want to go there. This is the choice of the soul. He is inviolable. This is the basic law. Here is a spell that solves it all. It turns out to be an earth zombie. A man breaks his will. This is wrong. And secondly, devils also play a very big role there. Devils are engaged in what they are preparing for us, people, eventfulness. The lower system of devils is responsible for each person's eventfulness. They have prepared some kind of move. Then some beautiful woman jumps out from around the corner, some witches make him a spell, and breaks the whole system of his life. And the script is changing too.
Are the devils angry?
They are offended. I'm sorry if you and I are going to dig a trench all day now, and then someone will come for us, who will fill it all up. Say that we are in vain, we will be offended. Here they are also offended. Here are most people, for example, here I have had so many cases, they come to me and here, Oleg Velikorodnev. While I was driving before you, I found an ad there. I say, what about the ad? And it starts very interesting. He called the site, well, not mine, he found mine later. And first I called the dark magicians. They say, we will solve your question. And then the milking began. And then the threats began, the usual standard threats, because he's open, he thinks people will help there. He doesn't even think who he's messing with. Because the site, he doesn't even read it. Him. He has problems, he needs to solve them. Rituals begin to do, and brings a person to a frenzy. And he really pays him money. But it will be very difficult to get him out of there, because, in fact, he gave them the go-ahead. Because of this, when you go to sites, think about where you are going with your head. And then they run to us because they don't have money, everything went wrong for them, and it's not enough to clean them. They still need to be picked up here, and they just don't let go. And this is the biggest difficulty. Because people don't think. And when you start, and then with them, that's how you believe Allah. Do you read the Quran? He says yes. I say, isn't the use of dark magic contrary? I didn't know. I say, how did you not know? And what does your faith not give you? The judge is that people have faith and money, matter lies in different stories. That's the distortion.
But if we turn, let's say, to people. But basically, what kind of requests do these people address? This has already been said in part, but is there more detail?
There are a lot of requests in fact. Someone comes, says that everything is wrong in life, he wanted it like that, but now it's somehow wrong.
Are you changing your fate?
Fate cannot be changed. Fate can only be changed by the person himself. I can only suggest the idea of how to do it. We're not doing anything. We help a person to get rid of, let's say, malware. Malware includes spoilage, evil eyes, love spells, and various kinds of curses. Plus karmic ties. Well, this is what came from the past. But we don't get into karma, we figure it out here. This is the program. Plus, there are entities. The essence. This is generally a teacher, well, so tough. It feeds on the essence. It is a creature of the lower world. It's an animal, only with a higher intelligence than a human. They introduce a person into various not very pleasant situations. Well, a person, for example, can drive into melancholy, a very powerful depression, please, doubts. Because any entity, it feeds on negative energy. Why was it invented and created at all, let's say, of this whole system? In order to finally give a person the idea that something is still wrong and someone is controlling me. Well, it does not obey. So I wanted to do it like this, but I can't do it. Or there are very emotional outbursts, yes, even though I wasn't going to swear, but they hurt, it went. That's what he says, then the person walks away, says, and he doesn't understand what happened. Well, it just so happened, we say so, it just so happened. The one who starts to think about, the essence has worked. That's it. In fact, it brings a person to a certain situation, when he has to think. As soon as he thinks about it, he gets to us specialists, like me. And we pull out these entities, because it's very difficult to do it on our own. In reality, it needs to be done very rigidly by practitioners. And until you cleanse your body, you will not do any practice.
And how does a person pull entities to himself?
Desires are not very good. Well, the very first thing is alcohol. Where there is alcohol, there are essences. Uncontrolled sex is without love. And negative emotions, greed, anger, hatred, resentment, fears. And off she went. And all this attracts the essence. And plus magic. When they do damage, and they do damage, I'm telling you seriously. Here you have a lot of people watching. I would just like to address them in a purely human way.
Contact us.
Because that's what we've been seeing lately. Here I have girls there, boys come, women, men, well, 18, 20. Well, 38 spoilage, well, maybe that's enough. It feels like the world has gone crazy. Previously, at least they fought on the street, now they don't even fight on the street, because everyone runs around these grandmothers. And these spoils are hung from morning to evening. Well, it's just not worth doing it, because any damage, it is removed, sooner or later, it will be removed. And all this will fly back.
Could you explain what is a blight from the eyes, a curse, a love spell?
Evil with damage, curse, spell. Well, curses can be generic when in hearts. These are programs. These are programs, malicious programs. It is the bioenergetic program that is formed by a person during the practice of occultism, using certain spells, mental images, and is sent to the address. It breaks through a person's aura and hits the energy centers. A person really begins to have problems in physics. He may start to get sick, depending on what kind of damage. There is a serious enough damage that a person can go to another world. And very often it happens that doctors just say, sorry, we don't know what it is. A person just hurts everything. He doesn't understand what's happening to him. A love spell is when, well, it's the same damage, it's just her task to drag or attract one person to another artificially. But basically it's not love, I'm telling you seriously, because if a man has a spell, and he is, let's say, a fairly successful businessman, then in about a year and a half he is a beggar, because the spell is done on the second. The first chakra automatically flies, the fourth and the sixth. His business is covered to zero, he begins to collapse everything, he will be an absolutely impoverished person in a year and a half. And secondly, a person can't do anything during the day, he sleeps when a person sleeps. This damage in this spell does not affect him. He is free in a dream, and then he wakes up, he has aggression. There are a lot of people to whom love spells were made at one time. They start drinking and beating their wife. And they are aggressive because they don't really want to. This is a magical effect. Well, it's easier with a curse. Why? Because a curse isn't really magic, it can be a very strong emotional, heartfelt impulse. And then she hits. From the eye it's not magic, from the eye it's just a strong energy one is stronger, the other is weaker. And, let's say so, it is transmitted through the look. But there is one more small nuance, there is the evil eye itself. That's worse. This is when we swear at ourselves, when we offend ourselves for any actions we did wrong, and at this moment we swear at ourselves. Here we are so bad, well, probably, well. Women go there, right? Fat there, oh there, my ears are the wrong size there. And she resents herself. This is very poorly removed, because it is an internal offense. And it's very difficult here. You need to work with the subconscious, pull it out, and only then the system restarts. And so this is magic, pure magic, witchcraft. Witchcraft, let's say so, is occultism. This does not apply to the esoteric system. Esotericism, on the contrary, fights for the fact that these things should not be done, because by changing your attitude and yourself, the problem is removed. We always think about what? That there is dark magic, or as we call it, destructive magic. That's where all the magic goes. Magic can't be positive or negative. Magic. It's just a mixture of energy. It's magic. But you can mix positive and negative energy.
Do you mean white, black now?
Yes. There's just black magic, right? There is a purely pronounced white. Do you think that's it? No. There is an awesome layer, which no one talks about at all. Gray. Gray mass. They can go into both occultism and esotericism. It all depends on the situation when it is convenient for them. These are gray ones. They cause huge damage to the system. Black.
Them? Gray. Are these people?
Yes. These are the magicians who say, I'm a Mac over there. Well, in principle, I will spoil you. She basically believes in God somewhere far away in her soul. But there's money at play. And this is a gray mass. They're not white, they're not black. Gray is a purely pronounced color. That's what it's about. It's not polluted white, and it's not enlightened black. The blacks, by the way, have black magicians. It's nice to deal with them. They have at least some honor. They really have honor. If they said, they did. These don't have any. They act according to the situation. As the situation develops, it is convenient for them. It's very bad to deal with them at all. Because they are undefined. That's what it's about. That's about it. And there is a gray energy in a person, oddly enough. The gray energy in a person is expressed I do not know, I am not sure. Or often, High God decides. This grayness. And it is, oddly enough, very sticky. I do not know when you get on the scales, this gray mass flows over where there will be more. And it increases almost 20 to 30 times. Because of this, I advise everyone, he says, we need to decide. Yes, you can count on God, but 10%. He will help. It will always help us. If he sees him in a serious condition, he will see him himself. But it is necessary to make a decision. That's what I do not know and stupor. Let it be decided as it is, and it will be decided. This is the gray mass. And she is very bad, she scores everything. And so there are gray ones in magic. And this gray mass here, it causes the greatest damage. And strangely enough, what is happening now in nature in everything, this is grayness.
What tools do you use in your practices?
Frequencies of cosmoenergy. Every purity is expressed. Well, let's give such a light frequency the first magic one. It's called the first magic one. It is designed to remove destructive programs. With eyes, damage, love spell.
But practically, what does it look like, using this purity?
There is a thought image going on there. And you open up purity to a person, it begins to be cleaned.
Are your thoughts image being formed?
I make a thought image. I put a person, make a thought image, discover purity, and he begins to be cleansed.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't mean that he's just standing there with his eyes closed. A person feels that tantrums may begin, it may become bad. I mean, the emetic system can work. In damage, it is removed very much, not always so. Someone says he's hot, someone says it's cold. A person feels, says, his hands are getting heavier, his legs. And this. I have a lot of skeptics, he says. Oleg, you invented it all for yourself. I can think of anything for myself, but when a person stands, comes to you, he is normal. The woman came, beautiful, everything is wonderful, she was preparing, she came. She wasn't going to cry. They won't. She's getting hysterical. And it's not just that it's not a game. There are real tears, she starts shaking, she starts remembering pictures that she didn't even remember at all. Childhood pops up there. Well, hardly a person can remember what he did in a year. She describes things like that.
So you work through thought images on every purity?
No.
Different.
Each frequency has its own vibration. We are cosmoenergy operators, that's what they call it. Operator, this indicates that I am not clean. There is bioenergy. This is when people use their internal energy through their energy, put their hands on it and transfer their energy. They treat you with their energy. We work with cosmoenergy. This suggests that we are just setting up cleanliness for the client. Our task is to ensure that this cleanliness goes well, to maintain the thought image, and, well, to maintain the moral side of the work. If a person is already starting to shake, and he starts to suffocate there, maybe there have been cases that a person really felt bad. We should not bring it to this, we are adjusting the work there. But after the session ends, the person sits down, you calm him down in a purely human way, that's it. And literally a day or 2 or 3 later, many of them call him very much, say thank you, the business went shorter there. They handed over a new position, something else opened there, the husband returned. This is all absolute reality. Because this energy here, it makes up our aura. The aura composes and transmits energy to the society, which you are. There's an expression, and a law, right? Externally reflects the inner, internally reflects externally. What kind of bioenergetics you have, then you will have such a society. If you are, let's say, polluted, naturally, you can cause aggression in people or you will be repelled. If a person has good energy, they are drawn to him on the contrary. We are engaged in helping people, teaching, if this is a reception, not everyone becomes a student, many say thank you. I'd rather come once every 6 months, I have no time. And he goes to do business, his work. Someone stays, says, we are also interested. I want to cure my mother there. I want to work there with my children. I want to work with my husband. Please take it to the household level. The thing is that cosmoenergetics is not intended only for working with people. Cosmoenergetics is designed to shape events, keep yourself safe, protect your family. Because, well, let's say so, not all beautiful women, happy, walking down the street, cause delight. They cause a lot of people a lot of denial. They really want to say something after. And they say, and it all flies into a person's aura, eventually accumulates, and begins to pull it. Well, with the help of cosmoenergy, there is no need to go anywhere. At home, you can clean the house for 20 to 30 minutes, you can clean the car, you can clean the apartment. And live, and guard. Usually these functions are assumed by women. Although now there is a trend, men began to study. Men very rarely study, but now for literally 2 or 3 months, there are almost only men, there are fewer women. The men finally realized that it also helps so well.
And how do you feel after all the sessions?
Wonderful. I don't work with my own energy, understand? These streams are all guarding me, I'm normal.
Don't you waste all of yourself?
No. So that's the whole thing. The whole thing is the most interesting thing. The people's militia works with bioenergy. Well, a year, 2, 3, and they go off the course. Are they all sick like that? Most very rarely when you meet, says that they do not work enough. But those who are on the conveyor stand, then they accept. 10 years later, it's scary to look at them, they just don't have anything, everything is sick. Because they don't have time to clean up. We don't do this, we don't work with our own energy. Our energy is meant for ourselves. We work with the energy that is given to us from above. We just manage them perfectly. By the way, this is not only such a thing in cosmoenergy. There are a lot of different streams now. There are streams that come from the saints. It all depends on how ready you are and how much the saints are ready to accept you. Well, let's say so, we look at each other, we don't see many things. From a thin space, a person is viewed as a scanner. They see it all perfectly, your potential, how much you need it, how you will go. If you're ready, they give you. They also depend on us. We give energy there, they live. The whole system is interconnected, you know. The Earth generates energy and gives it to space. We are in some kind of planetary system, and the gods feed on our energy, transmit energy to us. And they want to receive pure from us. Why do they need all this dirt? Dirt burns, they don't get enough. That's the whole story. We are interconnected. And there is another theory that each of us is God. Writes a lot there. They are just in the human body, life training is going through us here.
Well, by the way, we have already come to such a question that when a person uses your service, yes, he is cleaned of dirt there. So you say, well, what does he give away, it turns out, in the end?
And we take the money, oddly enough.
No, but what does the person himself give away? Here it can be some kind of energy, too. He pays with something of his own. That's the money you take.
Why?
And those deities you were talking about.
Understand, look here, this person came, yes, home after cleaning. He treats children differently if it's a woman. But why am I a woman? Because 80% of me are women after all. Men go very badly when they are terribly skeptical. First of all, a person's worldview changes, his eyes open in a different way. A lot of people open their eyes after work, here they are with their eyes closed, then they open their eyes, and some moments they are just like that. You tell them to sit down. Because he's so confused. First of all, he doesn't understand what happened. Secondly, he says, a rarity has appeared in the eyes. Here the colors are brighter than steel. I had a case when a woman came in, she said, I don't see you at all. She had vision. But when I worked it out in the third session, she says, Oleg Velikorodnev, you have good beautiful eyes. She saw my eyes, you know. She hadn't seen it before. I say, can you read the poster on the wall? She says yes. She couldn't read it, she was coming to read it. Her eyesight has improved so much. I say, well, and you strongly this, I say this. Do not be happy, if you continue to think like this, then your eyesight will fall again. This is how the upper system receives energy from these people, this good energy. Interchange. You see, you think that now someone is watching us, they might think that they are taking away from us. No, interchange. This energy is given and taken away in equal amounts. The dude doesn't suffer about anything, and he fills up even further. That's what it's about. Everything goes in balance. No one said that the upper system withdraws energy there, no. We have, by the way, the lower system withdraws energy when we strive.
But I also said that you are a parapsychologist and psychologist. And how is this related to cosmoenergy?
And what is parapsychology? Parapsychology. This is ordinary psychology, orthodox psychology. But in orthodox psychology, there is no concept of God, and there is no concept of soul, and there is no concept of subtle bodies. Well, parapsychology is just these abilities. Well, in principle, cosmoenergetics is included in esotericism. But esotericism is a science, well, it's just not recognized. And what is esotericism? Esotericism is a science that studies a person's relationship with himself, a person's interaction with another person, and a person's interaction with the earth, with matter, and at the same time interaction with thin space. Well, we will, because God, the demon, nature, the earth, it's all connected materially, in an ice system. Here esotericism studies it all. That's the whole story. Esotericism includes many sciences. Parapsychology. This colloquial speech is delivered with the use of energy practices already. This is parapsychology, extrasensory. This is you seeing space, reading this space, and how you correctly give it to a person. This is psychology. Psychology. This is the science of conversation. Or, let's say, orthodox psychology translates as the science of the soul. That's right. Well, the soul is a person. The soul is in the physical body. The physical body is in the physical material, what we see on earth. And the soul wife connects with what? With God. And God is a thin space. Or rather, it connects us not with God, but with our higher self. This is our main projection, next to God, the Creator in a subtle space.
Here.
There are a lot of them.
Here in more detail. What kind of thin space is this? What kind of hierarchy? How to do what?
Hierarchy. It is easiest to decompose, so that it is clear, decompose into a chakra system or energy centers. There are energy centers in every person. Here we take the chakra system from the east. The first chakra is located where the legs converge. Yes, it connects us with the earth. Root, as we call it. It binds energy from the earth. The earth is material, and there is energy. The second chakra is responsible for the person. If it is a woman, then she is connected with the female organs. A woman's attitude to herself, by the way, also to food. The third center is the solar plexus, a little lower. It connects a person with society, its expression in society. The fourth, heartfelt, connects him with himself with love. But love is not only for the opposite sex, it is sex. If in the deuce sex is an animal level, then here it is conscious. Here we are already talking about love. Self-love, love of man, love of nature, love of God. It's a 4, it's more complicated. The throat 5. She is responsible for the society or for the conversation, for our suppressed or unspoken feelings. Why does pantomime beat us so well, and why can't we all breathe? Because we have a lot of understatements. We don't speak out. The government tells us we are silent. The boss tells us we are silent. We are being crushed at home, we are silent. The husband insulted the woman, is silent. A man somewhere is something silent. Because of this, there was a violation. Here she is a 5, she is responsible for the lungs. Each chakra is also responsible for organs.
How does it relate to the subtle world?
Now I will explain it to the end, you will understand. 6th. Here it is. She is responsible for the head of the essence Oraku. The 7th one is right here, just barely coming out. This is the Atma. It is connected with the higher self. If we take the 7 chakras, then there are 7 planes of the subtle world. This is for beginners. In general, a person who knows all this is one whole. But for a beginner, it is divided into levels. God is responsible for what, right? 6th. It's a thought, a recycling. The top 5 is associated with the causal level, a causal relationship. If you don't express your emotions, naturally, you have problems. And there is karma under the level. We won't get into karma. Next. The heart is connected with the mental body, and the mental body is a thought, desires. And there are thoughts and desires in space. There is no desire for thoughts in our head. There's an antenna. We attract only what we want. The triple is connected with the astral body, and the astral body is connected with the astral plane. There are 4 or 5 sublanes: the etheric body, the second chakra, and physics. This is how a person is connected with the subtle world.
What are these levels called in the subtle world? That's what they said, that the highest is God, then yourself.
Atmic level?
And if not to dissolve, then?
Well, I call it the Druil world. The Druil world. This is a territory where if good and bad. But this is only on Earth because they don't have it there. In the subtle dimension, there is no bad. And there is no time. There is only time here. That's how it's all connected. And all of this, oddly enough, is controlled by God. Here esotericism allows it all. And we are working with it all. We very often see ads for spiritual practices on the internet. What is it? No one knows what it is. Everyone says, we're talking to the soul there. But then it should be called soul practice. And it is called spiritual practice. Spiritual practice is the development of just this level. And where did the first, second, third, fourth go? Cosmoenergetics. It's not only that. It's not a spiritual practice, really. Cosmoenergetics is a clearly defined corridor of human self-development, and self-understanding. We have to understand first. A person begins to develop. He begins to develop, his attitude and vibration change. This is called self-development. Yoga is the same self-development. This is all self-development because we are beginning to clear the lower vibrations from the circa. And where do we get them? In society. We take in society. When you rise to the level of a slightly different mindset, society changes, the world is multifaceted. Man has risen, nature has not changed. He began to see her in a different way, he began to feel her in a different way. And up to a certain elevation, for example, to the 4th level of consciousness, and this is here. But he has already more or less cleared the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. This is where spiritual practice begins. You can't take a person, put him under purity, and he will talk to God. It won't burn. Because it's physics, it's vibrations again. This is one time. This needs to be understood. We are mainly engaged in self-development, and spirituality is further. If you get to it, it's time. This needs to be clearly understood. If you make it. It is necessary to clearly understand what esotericism is and what occultism is. The two sciences are the same. And next to it are occultism and esotericism. Esotericism pursues the goal of developing a person in his consciousness, subconsciousness, and everything else using certain techniques. Occultism pursues the goal of a mercantile plan to achieve material benefits with the same techniques. There is no talk about any development there. 80% of YouTube and everything there is occultism. Yes, in occultism there are spoilages, evil eyes, love spells, and everything else. This is occultism. And, so to speak, all the techniques that achieve purely what do people need. Open the purity, so that his money will go. I say, guys, I don't do occultism. I can make you have money, but I will do it through you. I will clear your chakras from the 1st to the 4th day. I will change your consciousness. I will change your body bioenergetically and physically. Because of this, there is not one technique, but a whole series, according to which there is a displacement of it in bioenergetics. It becomes easier. This is esotericism. But all that's for you is a medallion, everything will be fine. This is occultism. They pursue a purely mercantile goal. 80% of YouTube is occultists, it's not esoteric. This needs to be understood. We need to sort this stuff out.
Thank you very much, Oleg Vladimirovich, for a very interesting, informative interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello. Shadow control is on the air. Every person in his life repeatedly encounters magic and what is inexplicable. And when faced with this, he often forgets, although the consequence remains. And the question is, what is magic? False or true? Magic exists, and it's real. If magic was a fantasy or a deception, it wouldn't have existed for so many thousands of years. And throughout all this time, it has seduced and seduces the masses of people to this day. Magic is the oldest and most numerous religion, the religion of Satan, whose adherents are even atheists. That is why all the prophets at all times said about the inadmissibility of practicing magic, that magic does not lead to hell. And yet, some religions, originally built on the true teachings introduced by the prophets, are openly engaged in magic today. They conduct various magical rituals, offerings, sacrifices. But the prophets didn't do that. And, moreover, they bequeathed not to do it. All these actions are imposed by the devil. As well as begging, supposedly God has material goods, health. But the prophets said, it is not worth asking God for anything, except for the salvation of the soul. It turns out that those who had to fight and resist magic openly serve Satan. Why is she so attractive? When people, knowing about the ruinousness, and, nevertheless, exchange forever for the momentary, ghostly material. Yes, the invisible world exists. And it is diverse, like the ocean is full of unknown life. And together with you, friends, we would like to understand a little bit about what magic really is, why it is so tempting, and how the invisible world really works.